Hey guys, it's Robin, RsIslandCrafts, and this is Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, August 6th, 2019. I have a finished quilt to show you guys this week. I actually finished it 1.5 times. I had gone ahead last week on my Whip It Wednesday. You saw, last week on my Whip It Wednesday, I showed you where I did some free motion meander quilting all over with red thread. Well, you can't see from here. I'm going to show you a close-up in a couple minutes in a moment, but there's no red thread on there anymore. I actually took about 2.5 days, about 3 hours each day, and pulled all of the quilting out. Because when I went to put the binding on, I stitched the binding onto the back first, and then my plan was to fold it around to the front and just stitch it down, right? It's going to be for a baby. It's going to get washed a lot. It needs to be, I like it to be a little bit sturdier, so I like to sew my binding down with the machine. And as I was going, I could see eyelashes. Not everywhere, probably about good 50% of the places. And when there wasn't eyelashes, it was just almost eyelashes. It was just starting to get those stitches a little bit loose on the back there. I thought, oh, great. So my first thought was, I only saw it in one spot to begin with, so maybe I can just go ahead and I'll just do some extra free motion quilting and I'll just double it all up and just cover that one spot up, right? No. Well, maybe I'll just pull out that one little spot, right? It's not that much. No. If I were to have stitched over it, I would have had to requilt the entire quilt because I found it in so many different places. And I couldn't just pull out one spot because, once again, I found it in so many different places. So it was frustrating, but it's good practice. It's a good reminder that if you haven't done free motion quilting in a while, or you're doing it on a different machine, I did do a little practice just to get my hand movements. I've got a lot of thunder going on right now. I've got some nice storms going through all weekend. But I did have a little bit of practice just on a small piece because that's usually all I need. The thing I see that I need to get used to is the sewing machine has that plastic extension table. The table's really slick. So the quilt is moving a lot faster than I'm used to. I'm used to having to prop up all different tables to make it all nice and level and have things all around me. And I'm not used to having that space to move things around. So that quilt was just kind of going. So I need to slow my hands down, slow the machine down, coordinate the hand and the feet a little bit better. But I went ahead and I got it all taken out and I've got this quilt finished. I just love the way this quilt looks. I love the colors, the pops of red in there. Let me bring you guys closer so you can see what I did for the quilting and everything. Hi. So what I ended up doing with this quilt is, after doing that free motion and then pulling it all out, I went back with my original thought. I was just going to straight line stitch along these sashing lines, but I thought, oh well, let me just go ahead and free motion it with the red because that red will make everything pull together and I really like it. And then I didn't like it, and even though I have picked out all the red threads and it's gone through the sewing machine, it's gone through the washer and dryer, I'm still finding bits of red thread everywhere. Not to mention the little bits of red thread that are all over my house. So I got it all taken out. I actually went and finished putting on the binding all the way around to the quilt to the back, and I decided to just let that hold my 3 layers together. That I wasn't going to go through and repin it again and then stitch it all up. I thought, well, let me just go ahead and do it this way, right? Because as I was quilting it, I thought I used my walking foot, but if I had any bunching as I quilted along the sashing, the bunched up fabric would be able to hide underneath the binding. And I did have a little bit of bunching up here and there, just a small amount. Sometimes just the way it landed, because I said I already had the binding on there, I wasn't able to push the fabric and have that little extra come off, just maybe 1/8 of an inch. So in a couple spots here and there, there's a little extra fabric tucked under. I still need to go through and double check to make sure none of the seams popped while being washed, and to make sure all these little bits of threads have been taken off. But I'm going to do that when I'm done with this video. So then I thought, okay, I like the serpentine quilting that you can do. So I tested that out and I did it on one spot here. And then I went and I did it on another here, and I thought, this is taking forever. After pulling out all that quilting and doing this, I'm just not in the mood to spend that time to do this again. So I just went through and I straight line stitched. You can see there's 2 rows of stitching. where you can see it. So I just did 2 rows of stitching on each side of the sashing here, and I used my walking foot, and I used the side of the foot and the inside of the foot depending on where I wanted it to, which side I was on. So that I just went about 1/8 of an inch or so, give or take, just along the edges. And I stayed on the black because I used black thread, and that way I knew I wouldn't get any here. I did attempt a little stitch in the ditch with the stitch in the ditch foot. I did attempt it here, and I was going pretty good, but then I got off just a little bit here, and then I got off a little bit more there. So it seemed like it's going to take some practice to get used to running that edge of the foot, because it has a metal bar underneath the foot to ride along your seam. So I thought, once again, I'm not going to mess with that this time. I'm just going to go ahead and get it done. Kept the walking foot on, just straight stitched it, and I think it came out perfectly fine. It still has that nice bit of puff. It's got cotton batting in there, so I'm still within my range of quilting it to make sure it all stays together. This is a great quick way to do it if you don't mess it up 3 times first. A little reminder of the back. You can see just a little bit of the stitching on the back. And I don't mind that there's a couple squiggly lines versus having all straight lines, because it's a baby's quilt. If I don't show it to anyone else, they're probably not even going to notice it, especially on the front, because for the most part, you're only going to see it when it squiggles off into the other area. And even then, look how close I have to get you for you to see it. I mean, if you got a keen eye and you notice these things, you're going to see the difference. But this quilt is going to my daughter's friend, one of her good friends, and their little baby, and it's going to be perfectly fine. Not everything has to be quilt show ready. It needs to be loved, it needs to be soft, and it needs to be something that the family is going to use. And I think they are going to use this. Now, this is going to be going to them today, actually. Well, you're today. I'm recording this on Monday. So this is going to be going to them on Tuesday morning. See these darn red threads? They're just everywhere. I'm going to let them know that there are red threads everywhere, and if you just pull them out, it'll be fine. They're not attached to anything. They'll get the whole story on the whole drama of what happened to their quilt, and everything will be fine. See, as I said, I still need to just go through, check the seams, pull out any extra threads, trim them all up. Make sure as best as I can. I've gone over this quilt about 4 times. I went through probably 8 sheets of a lint roller, and there's still, as I said, still red threads coming to the surface. I think that's quite funny. Look at that. See? More red threads. So that's the quilt that I worked on this week. I'm going to go ahead and pull another one out to work on next week. I've had a few people ask me how I'm doing with my 50 charity quilts for my 50th birthday. And when I started it out, I was thinking I want to donate 50 items during the year I turned 50. Then I thought, well, I'm a quilter, so let me make 50 baby quilts, 1 a week. That would be great. And I was on schedule. I have 20-something quilts already made, 23, 25, 28, somewhere between 20 and 30 quilts, the tops. And I thought I'm going to take the month of June and I'm going to go ahead and quilt them all. Because really, I can quilt more than 1 quilt in a day. Once I get them all pin basted, to quilt something, especially like this, when I just went with the straight line stitching, it goes really quickly. So I thought I would go ahead and do all those in the month of June. But as you guys know, life kind of tosses things around and you don't always get to follow the plan. But I'm going to keep working on these quilts, and I'm going to keep making more quilts, and I'll see what I have at the end of the year. I'm not really concerned about donating 50 things in my 50th year, because I already donated over 50 of the port pillows earlier this year. So I figure technically I'm kind of covered on that part, and then I'll just see whatever happens for the rest of this year. I'm not going to stress myself out with it. It was just a fun little thing I was going to do. I have these quilts. I am determined to get these quilts done, or as many as I can, before the end of the year, so that some of them can go in the shop, some can be donated, and some can be given to friends and family. That way I don't have them laying around the house. I don't have all these tops just sitting around waiting to be turned into something. That's my plan. I'm hoping to, right now I'll probably just get 1 done a week, but as time progresses, as I said, I'm going to try to get more than 1 done. And then we'll go from there. I'll probably do an assembly line. I'll pin base as many as I can till I run out of pins. Then I'll quilt them. And then I'll pin base some more, and I'll put the binding on the other ones, and I'll just keep progressing through until they're all done. I'll become a quilting sweatshop here in Florida. Trust me, it's hot enough to be considered a sweatshop. See, it's because I keep it in the craft room that I've been working with a lot of scraps and stuff, and I haven't put this like in a Ziploc bag or anything because it's too big to fit. So any of the extra fluff that's been floating around the room just attracts itself right to a black piece of fabric or a black quilt. I'm going to go ahead and get this lint rolled one more time. As I said, check the seams and put it away so I can give it to my daughter this afternoon. That's it for me this week. I have been watching everyone's videos. Ooh, that one startled me. That was loud. I have been watching everyone's videos. I don't always get to comment, but I have been watching them and loving everyone's projects. Until next week, I'll talk to you later. Bye.